Hello, listeners. Been wondering how you can help the show? Probably not. But here are 5 things you can do. 1. Subscribe. Support the show by clicking the subscription link in the show notes. 2. Review on iTunes, on our website, www.afraidofnothingpodcast.com, or on whatever app you listen to. 3. Donate. When you go to our website, click the cute coffee cup icon, or in the show notes, click the subscription link. 4. Share. Sharing really is caring. Tell your friends and even your enemies to check out the show. 5. Watch. Wait a minute, it's a podcast, not a movie. Actually, it's both. Check the show notes to find out where to watch the documentary. You can also rent it on Prime Video. That's it. Oh, one last thing. Enjoy this episode.
Hello, my name is Emily Heskey. Do you believe in fairies? I do. And if you go to Lilydale and walk the fairy trail, you might just see some. Please remember, always be kind to the fairies and they'll be nice to you too.
Wow, I think that's really good.
In a world where nothing is known, nothing is certain, reality is not real. Wake up! Be afraid of nothing. I'm Bob Heskey.
Robert.
The host with the ghost.
This is my podcast, based on my paranormal documentary, Afraid of Nothing. Each episode, we talk to people who see life and the afterlife through a different lens. Join me.
Who is this large man? And what's he doing in our bedroom?
As we lift the veil and open our minds to see beyond our eyes lie. This is Afraid of Nothing.
The one place you don't have to say, pass the salt, is the Cran Cave in Lilydale, run by the Reverends Janice L. Dreshman and Chris Seastead. Jan and Chris opened the Salt Cave in September 2020. Cran Cave's over 1,000 pounds of pure harvested Himalayan salt provides visitors with up to 84 minerals that are absorbed in the skin and nourishes their body, mind, soul, and spirit as they relax and breathe deeply. How does it work? Salt lamps are natural ionizers. They absorb moisture from the air, and the ions clean the air by attracting the pollutants. The moisture evaporates, and not only does this clean the air around the lamps, but because people are breathing the air, it cleans and detoxifies their body as well. Cleaner air oxygenates the brain, and this can aid in reducing mood disorders and improving respiratory and immune systems. It works. I'm a happy customer. To learn more and schedule your salt sessions, go to spiritmessagework.com or psychicmediumchris.com. That's Chris spelled K-R-I-S. About Reverend Janice Dreshman. Reverend Dr. Janice L. Dreshman is a registered medium in Lilydale, New York, the largest spiritualist community and center for the study of spiritualism in the world. Janice has worked with people from all over the world. In addition to her service as a professional medium and an ordained minister, Janice has worked with children, adolescents, adults, the elderly, and the military for more than 30 years. Much of this work has focused on coping with trauma, crisis, grief, risk prevention, and psycho-spiritual transformation. Janice was recognized for her work both nationally and internationally when she received the Crystal Award. She was also the recipient of the General Colin Powell Leadership Award for her work with families, the community, and the military. About Reverend Chris Seastead. Reverend Chris Seastead was born and raised in Jamestown, New York, just 20 minutes southeast of Lilydale. As a child, Chris had experiences related to the other side, and it wasn't until Chris was 15 that she had her first experience in Lilydale with a personal spiritual reading. Finding herself drawn more and more to Lilydale, one day a medium told Chris she was a natural healer. Chris took this to heart and took a therapeutic touch course offered at Lilydale. This also led to regularly attending the Wednesday night healing service that is offered all year round in Lilydale. Today, Chris is a certified metaphysician, medium, and a spiritualist minister. Chris is also a certified fairyologist. Chris co-created the Cran Fairy Deck Cards and 2 CDs, Fairy Elements and Meditation, and Shamanic Drumming and Elemental Meditation. Available on Crantastic Events. Look for them online. I am in a salt cave in Lilydale, Mass. with Reverend Dr. Janice Dreshman and Reverend Chris Seaset. I met them yesterday. I was here in the salt cave. I couldn't get a healing at Lilydale. Usually they have hands-on healing, and they didn't have it this week. So this was like the best alternative, which is great. You go here for 45 minutes. It's like 2 days at the beach. Seriously. If you're in Lilydale, check it out, definitely. Jan, we're going to start with you first, okay?
Okay.
You are a medium and ordained spiritualist minister. You're also a martial arts enthusiast, pet handler, and author. You do other things too. That's a lot of stuff. But how would you describe yourself?
That's a really good question, Bob. Probably different. We'll start with that. Just different. And I guess what I mean by that is that I've learned that my life does not fit the normal world of most people's lives.
Let's talk about this lovely salt cave that you're in. You run Cran Salt Cave here at Lilydale, which the website describes as an experiential activity. Now, why salt? How does that help people? Can you explain kind of the science behind it?
Yeah, I might have Chris jump into this. We actually came up with the idea of the salt cave. There's 1,500 pounds of pure harvested Himalayan salt. We worked with a researcher and scientist to see what it might really be able to do. It is experiential. You look at any pictures, you'll see we don't have salt on the walls or on the floor. That's for more of the aesthetic appeal. The salt here goes anywhere from 5 pounds up to a couple 100 pounds. When we looked at the research with the salt lamps, we realized that there's a lot of evidence that it can help with healing. And again, it all depends on what people believe, but it's supposed to help with PTSD, post-traumatic stress, anxiety, skin disorders, eczema, pulmonary, and we had also found some research that indicated that it helped with kids with autism.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I have a daughter with autism. So how does it help? Does it help clear their neural pathways or?
They had an article where a therapist was working with a kid who was autistic, and one of the recommendations was a salt cave, and they had recognized that it had a calming effect. So they started to use it, I think it was once or twice a week in a way, as a treatment modality.
Oh, that's great. So, Chris, anything to add to that?
We had talked about this the other night a little bit. It's, we set the intention that this is a space of healing, and the salt actually purifies the air. So you're breathing purified air that helps oxygenate your brain. And when you're clear-headed, everything seems clearer, right? So I think that's why it helps everybody. People walk in here and the first thing they usually say is, wow. And I think wow, because it's beautiful. We think it's beautiful, but wow, because just you feel the energy. And that's our intention. It's the energy of Lilydale. It's everything. There's a lot of love in this room, a lot of love and a lot of thought put into it. And I think people feel it. I really do.
Yeah, when you walk in, like if you go on Amazon and look for a Himalayan salt lamp, there's like a little 5 pound or whatever one. But this is like walking into like Alien, and there's all these big like eggs, that are lit up. They're huge. They look like they're a couple 100 pounds or something. So, and there's several of them. There's probably 10 or 15 of these things when they're all counted. And so my experience at the end was I was very calm. Usually I'm hyperactive. 45 minutes went by pretty quick. I wanted to take a nap. Is that kind of normal?
You looked pretty relaxed coming out of here. One of the things that we started to do was ask people to take before and after pictures. And with people taking the before and after pictures, we can, and they definitely can see a change in actually their facial structure, their tone. And even when we set up the picture to take it in front of the, whatever salt lamp they decide, sometimes the lamp is glowing more. Someone had sent us an email of her before and after pictures, and she said, reference my neck area. It's lighter. And sure enough, in the 3 pictures, it was. And we don't know really what happens in here. Like Chris had said, we believe it's healing. Without a doubt, we've always used the word spiritual, mystical, magical. A lot of people have described different types of experiences in here, and all of them are beautiful, and they're also honored.
I'm going to ask you both this, since you both can share the mic, which is great. I have a lavalier set up. I have this really kind of on-the-road type, little low-quality, unimpressive tech, but they still invited me in, which is great. But they're sharing a mic right now, which is excellent. So let's start with you first, Jan. What do you think is your greatest gift in helping people?
My greatest gift in helping people, I'd like to keep it pretty simple. It's to be of service, to truly just be of service. That has always been a main goal or mission for me. We consider it being a privilege and honor to be of service. And when we talk about service, that's in relation to ministry, that's in relation to the message work, that's in relation to any of the volunteerism that we do, any of the fundraising that we do. It's really about being of service to others.
What do you enjoy the most above? Do you enjoy giving a good sermon? Do you enjoy doing a reading? Do you enjoy meeting people? And
I think I could say we enjoy it all, including crashing weddings that have cookie tables. So we do a little bit of everything with love.
Wow, it's great. And Chris, I'm going to ask you the same thing.
Oh, I would have to piggyback off that. We actually learned a great word a couple years ago, and it's seva, and it means to be of humble service. And we were so moved by that we actually had it tattooed on our wrists. And before every service, I tap that on my wrist to be reminded of why we do this. And I think, we would add that Jan and I, we love to have fun. Being able to communicate with loved ones and being able to serve people can be very serious at times, but it should also be a lot of fun. And we have certainly learned that Spirit has an amazing sense of humor. So even though we're dealing with death and sometimes, like I said, very serious topics, you got that crazy aunt that comes through, and she comes through like that crazy aunt. And we're blessed that Spirit not only loves to come to us so we can help and heal, but also that we can play and show that continuity of life, and that they still walk with us. They still have fun with us.
As a medium, do you have the same set of skills as Jan, or are you more auditory? What's your process first, if you don't mind saying, Chris?
I think Jan and I are both blessed with the fact that we're both clairaudient, where we hear Spirit. We're both clairsentient, where we feel Spirit, like we'll feel how somebody passed. We're both clairvoyant, where we see, I forget what they call it when you could taste. We get taste sarma. I mean, so yeah, I guess we're similar in that way. I think we both have similar styles of delivering messages too. We get up there and we want to, connect with people. And that's the most important thing, is that connection. Because when you connect with somebody, then your loved ones are like, yeah, she's got them. And then they come right in. So I don't know that I could outline the process, because with everybody, I would have to say it's different. It all depends on how your loved ones want to come in. But I would say Jan and I are very similar, wouldn't you?
Before you answer, Jan, I was going to ask, do you guys do readings together, or is it separately typically?
We do readings together. We call them tag team readings. We're very blessed to be on the radio down in Pittsburgh, on a pretty big station down there. And we started doing tag team reads on the radio. And so we incorporated that here in Lilydale. So people can actually book a reading with both of us. And I think people were a little leery at first. You're used to that one-on-one. But then they're like, wow. Usually people either say, wow, this was really fun, or wow, that was great, or wow, I can't believe I get both of you. So the response has been really good. And we love working with each other too. So,
Jan, anything to add about how you conduct your mediumship that Chris said, or anything different? Or
I think the only thing I would add is that we always start off with a prayer. It's always with a prayer, and then we jump in and we give anything and everything that we get. And what we do is simply demonstrate the continuity of life where heaven and earth meet.
Now, when I was talking to Ron Skarowski, who's going to be on this podcast as well, he does the ghost walks. He mentioned that Lilydale was, though you guys talk to the dead and it is a community of that, it isn't really a haunted place. There aren't a ton of hauntings, but this might be an exception here in this house, right? You guys are laughing because apparently you can handle it. Where I come from in central Massachusetts in Westminster, there is a house called the S.K. Pierce Victorian Haunted Mansion in Gardner, Massachusetts. It's been on America's Most Terrifying Mansions. I had it in my documentary that I did. I've been to the Conjuring House. I've been to it down. There's the Murdoch Whitney House just down. There's a bunch of haunted houses nearby where I'm at. I'm lucky enough where nothing has followed me home. I don't think. I'm pretty easy. It's pretty restful where I'm at. You guys seem to have some activity here. Want to tell us about it and how long it's been going on?
A little bit about the activity. It's been going on for quite a while. Some of the things that have happened especially during reads, when we do face-to-face reads. You can see the ceiling. There's nothing that can come through. We've had acorns drop through, hair that ended up being pet hair. We've had glass. We've had rocks appear, and they call those apports, physical manifestations from God, Spirit, the divine, the afterlife, where they want you to be aware that they're here. And usually what we do now is we bag them up. We say, do you want to take this with you? We had a ceiling upstairs that kept moving for a few years, and I think I finally bottomed out last spring. And it's a ceiling that you have to put effort and push to move the tiles. So what we decided at this point was to just have a new ceiling put in. That kind of took care of that. We've had the smell of popcorn in here, furniture moves. Yeah, singing, beautiful music from like the 30s and 40s. Before you came in, we put the lead down on for our puppy Sir Tibbet Swick down on a chair, and we went to go get the lead, and it was gone. So we're running around the house trying to find a lead, and then it ended up back on the chair.
Wow.
Oh, the cookbook. We had friends.
By the way, that's when it's good to have two of you, so you're not crazy.
It is.
Validate.
and one of the incidents that was pretty startling for our friends that are, we'll say, from the secular world, were visiting us, 2 summers ago? And they were talking about something. We were in the kitchen preparing some food. We always like to have a nice spread when people visit. And a cookbook flew, not fall. It flew from a top shelf that you couldn't even reach. And that kind of startled our friends.
Wow. Now, I'm looking at this, the Salt Cave, and it looks like an addition that was made onto the house. Did the activity start after the addition was made, or was it like this when you first moved in, or?
Yeah, this is the new part of the house, but this part was actually more spirited while it was, and we say spirited, we don't say haunted. I'll tell you real quick what happened in here. So before this was all complete, I was walking through here for some reason, and there was a thing of mud on the floor. Like it looked like it come off someone's boot. And I was like, oh, that's weird. So I just picked up a wipe, picked it up, cleaned it up, whatever. So then I was mulling around, and I came back in, and there was another one, but it had progressed further. Like it was like 3 feet in front of where the other one was. And I thought, okay, this is getting weird, because nobody had been in here. Finally, the last one was about 3 feet ahead again, and it was right in front of our sign that say they walk with you. And the gentleman who we had originally got to start this edition passed away a couple years ago, and it was his partner that was doing this. And so we kept saying, he's here with you. He's letting you know. Like, of course he's letting you know they walk with you. It was very cool.
Sorry, so it doesn't like rattle you or anything. It just be a more, you coexist pretty easily with it.
I would say most of it is fun. We had people here in our salt cave this past week, and they heard creaking, like a door creaking. Well, as you can see, we only have barn doors.
Yep.
There's not that much noise, and some have heard little kids talking. As you can see, there's only enough room in here for 4 people right now can come in.
Editor's note. Coming up, Jan says it's pretty entertaining around here, and right on cue, their small dog, Sir Tibbet's Wick, makes a little grunt on Jan's lap.
It's pretty entertaining at times. It can be pretty entertaining. That was not me. That's Sir Tibbet's Wick, okay? Clarification.
That's a good transition to fairies. So you both are fairyologists, and what that almost seems like is it a Disney thing or whatever? But it's like it's something serious, and you get certified for it. So who wants to take what a fairyologist does? And there's a good reason why we're here in Lilydale.
Well, a fairyologist is somebody who just knows an awful lot about fairies. I'll tell you that. And the cool thing about it is there's so much history to it. And I'm not really a history buff, but I certainly am when it comes to fairies. And every culture has their own idea of magical people. In Ireland, they have the leprechauns, and in Scandinavia, they have the trolls. And here we have the fairies and, mermaids. And in the Philippines, it's the Melahunis. And you go out in the forest and you see a face in the tree. That's the green men. I mean, it's all around. Jan was very much a non-believer, I will have to tell you.
Yeah.
So, and I'll let her tell you how she's
a martial artist. She's tough.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to believe in fairies, right, Jan?
So, sometimes as mediums, we're the most skeptic.
Yeah.
You have to know. So we always like to prove it. So
before you give it to Jan, one quick question. What drew you to them, and why were you a believer? Did you hear about stuff, or did you see stuff?
You know, it's funny in spiritualism, you just kind of learn to trust. And I had seen a course on it and just felt immediately drawn to do it. I mean, I am Swedish and Irish, so I've got the leprechauns and the trolls in my background, but I just knew this was something I had to do. And so, you know, I became a certified fairyologist and I loved it. Immediately, I just embraced it. I think it's like learning a foreign language, you know, when you dive into it and it's just like, oh, this just feels right.
How do you even like Google something like that and find out how to?
Well, and that's the funny thing. I think it just kind of fell into my lap too. And so we would say, I believe spirit led me there. Jan and I took it and brought it to a whole different level.
Okay. Now, Jan, so what did it take for you to become a believer in fairies?
I have to see it to believe it. So I had to see it, and I did see it, and now I believe. We were at it, Inspiration Stump at about 1 o'clock in the morning, sitting in the golf cart, pitch black, waiting for fairies. And all of a sudden, I had seen a blue light, a yellow light, a green light, and I believe it was red, green, yellow, and blue. And they just started to blink. And I looked at Chris and I whispered, I said, look, do you see the lights? And she's like, yeah. And I said, those are fairies. And she's like, yeah. I said, oh my gosh, they're blinking. She's like, yeah. So then we just started talking low. And then when our voices would go higher, they would disappear. Well, that led me to definitely believe because I had witnessed it for myself. So we started studying more and looking at our own roots and what was within our culture. And then we went down to what would be called the old fairy trail and actually started to see more fairies where we actually photographed some. And then we teach some classes on it and did classes in Children and Teen Week. And we would take different groups down to let them experience it. And for some, it's seeing, believing, and they definitely saw and they definitely believed.
Yeah, the thing with the orbs that you get, there's a place here called the Fairy Trails, you know, and it's just kind of a little pathway with some kind of cool markers and stuff. But when I was here a couple of years ago, someone went out at night with my ex-wife and they took pictures. And there literally was one picture where it looked like, it was just weird. It was like an orb with like a human face, you know, or like a dragonfly with like a human face on it. It looked almost like an animation type thing or whatever. Is that kind of what people see when they go out? Is it orbs or is it more faces on orbs?
I'm not sure if we see orbs. I kind of think of orbs like coming through and by, like kind of waving, saying, hey, hi, how are you? Whereas the fairies, we actually sing. As odd as this is going to sound, we sing to them and for them, bless you. We will actually see them, and they come in like blinks. It's hard to describe. This is why we've taken people down so they could experience with us. And there's usually a lead fairy, if I may. And this is where people might think that we're on drugs crack. And this is why I started off with my life is not normal. So, and there's usually a lead and we'll talk to it. And then the others will start to blink. And we continue to thank them for being present. And we sing them songs. And the group that we're with, kids and adults, do the same thing. And they witness it. It's a beautiful thing. If you didn't see it, I'm not sure if you would believe it.
Yeah, it's like I did a show on shadow people with a guy that's on TV, but those are like more ominous, right? Or they can be, or the leader is the man in the hat or whatever. But it seems like this is something different. It seems like there is no fear when you see this. It's more of a positive feeling. Why is that?
Positive and fun. I mean, we truly are all about love and light. And sometimes we'll say love, light, and Hallmark. We're all about having a higher vibration, bringing in joy and happiness. And we think that that's part of what also, you know, we're attracted to and may also be attracted to us.
Okay. If you could hand it to Chris real quick, I'll ask her a question. You know, like I said, I had a gentleman on about shadow people. His name's Mike Ricksecker. He's been on a lot of shows on TV. And he's like, nobody quite knows what shadow people are. You know, they don't quite have a definition. Do you have an idea what fairies are, where they come from? Did they used to be human? Are they another life form? What are they?
Well, fairies are half human and half angel. Fairies are the keepers of animals and nature. So when we teach the classes, we always say, you know, this is why we go and sing to them and we thank them, because being half human, they have egos to them. And this is why fairies are elusive, because you have to earn their trust. So when we do fairy classes, and we specifically made our fairy class that we offered to everybody in Lilydale 18 and older, because we didn't want little kids in there. So, and it was all about bringing the magic back into your life. I mean, think of how when you were a little kid, everything was magical, everything was possible, everything was believable. And then all of a sudden you're an adult and you start to lose the magic because you get more pragmatic, or you get more into that secular world where like, you can't believe in fairies, you can't believe in any of this. So when we teach this class and all of a sudden you say, okay, they've got an ego, they're part human, so of course you'd have to earn their trust. And so, we start with a circle and we say, build your fairy circle. And this is how you attract them in. And then we always tell people, what do you need to attract in your life? And so, of course, just like there's different kinds of people, there's different kinds of fairies. So I don't want any mean fairies in my world. So we always say, if you need a little bit more fun, create a circle that's got fun things in it. Maybe a thimble of wine, or, a little bit of chocolate. Maybe you need some sweetness in your life, or some jingle bells, or, whatever it is that you want to bring into your life. Put out the bait. It's like when you fish, you use the right bait to catch the right fish. You got to use the right bait to bring the fairies in. So
you mentioned there's different types of fairies. There are no dark fairies, I guess, but more mischievous or whatever. Are there fairies?
Exactly. I think
they're more naughty. They're tricksters, things like that, like the leprechaun stuff. Stay
which
away
we
from them.
totally align with. So
yeah. Okay, there you go.
Makes perfect sense.
Tough year last year, COVID. How has it affected Lilydale and the energy that you felt around here? He's going to Jan for this one right now. She's going to handle that.
I think the pandemic has affected everyone, and on some level, we really believe everyone will be affected with post-traumatic stress on some level, minute to large. I think the macro reflects the micro in relation to society. For season last year, it was limited. We're in a pandemic, so things are different. I was talking with a teenager the other day, and I said, we're trying to get this normalcy back, and yet we're living our own normalcy and trying to combine a new normalcy. So it's not going to feel the greatest yet. And we may have moments of things that feel greater, that feel normal to us. And I think that's what we strive for. The pandemic has been rough. There's no way around it, not just on Lilydale, in any community.
How have people been? Things haven't been perfect, right? Are people a little less understanding, or how have they been? Like you see baseball games and fights breaking out and stuff. You don't see that in Lilydale, but have the customers been a little more ornery the past year than they have in prior years?
I think the people that come to Lilydale truly have been beautiful.
Okay.
That's one of the gifts that we have that I will say all the time, is that we get to meet beautiful people from all over. That is a gift within itself. It truly is. It doesn't matter if they're from Ohio or Pennsylvania. They could be from Kentucky. Met a woman who traveled from Portugal to here, and she was traveling 7 states in the United States. I tried to talk her also into Pittsburgh, PA, because that's originally where I'm from, the Burgh. But people are beautiful, and most are genuine. I think all of us are on some level that are coming through the gates. Again, we always say you come through the gates, we don't know what happens, but something spiritual, mystical, magical, all searching for something, or that healing, or trying to get that healing or that piece of normalcy to come back. We have people that are coming for the first time that don't know what to expect. People have been coming for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And the gift for us is we get to meet beautiful people.
Question for Chris. Talked about how COVID affected Lilydale. How has Lilydale evolved since you've been here? Has it changed much, or has it just kind of stayed steadfast?
The beautiful thing about Lilydale is that I think it always changes, because if you don't change, then I don't think you thrive and survive. I've been coming to Lilydale since I was a teenager. I'm blessed to have been born and raised in Western New York here. So Lilydale in so many ways looks exactly like it did when I came here when I was 14 years old. But of course it changes and evolves. So I think that's the beauty of Lilydale, is that it always feels like home.
Was there a mentor to you here as a medium?
I think that there's been a lot, to tell you the truth. So there was a medium who was kind of, my go-to when I was younger. And I loved her dearly. And she just passed into spirit a year or two ago. Jan and I both went through some similar training, and we were taught to take the best and leave the rest. So I think you learn from everybody. You either learn how to do it or how not to do it.
Yeah, it's a great saying, take the best, leave the rest. I know you're involved in Children's and Teens Week. Tell us about that for people that don't know about Lilydale and know the program. She's going over to Jen now. Hey, Jen.
Children's and Teen Week is a beautiful program that was originally started by Reverend Dr. Patricia Bell, who also still coordinates the program. And we have kids anywhere from the age of 3.5, 4, all the way up to 18 or 19. Also includes alumni that the ages can go up to 23, 24, 25, and 26. And it's an array of different types of classes and programs through the day. I was just describing it to a family because I had finished a reading for a little boy before we had done this. And we have different classes. You might have a class on healing, a class on beginning mediumship, a class on fairies that we teach, forest bathing we did this summer. You may have a class on communication, healing.
Quick question, did you say forest bathing is a
forest
class?
bathing, yes.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, the kids thought we were going.
You think I was going to let you like slip that by?
Not at all. It's actually and it's probably across all cultures, but they said some of the origination came from Japan. And what we did is we took the kids for a walk through the woods so that they could realize that there's life force everywhere, that every tree, every plant, every organism has a heartbeat, and that it all truly becomes one. It's an essence of us. It's calming. It was fun. We had them look for fairy houses, natural fairy houses that might be trees that have fallen and made neat little crevices. We found a plant that was shaped in the heart. So you look for the magic of the forest. And, we're blessed to have one of the oldest old growth forests in the nation right outside our door that we can go and take the walk every day. It's a blessing.
So, yeah, when you say about, like, I think of Bigfoot, where, like, it's trees bent over and snapped in half and stuff.
Sasquatch. We're waiting Sasquatch. For that one. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm assuming it actually come down to Massachusetts because there's supposed to be a lot of sightings. But for fairy houses, I mean, are they small? Are they like you think, or can they be human size? What size are fairies typically?
You are so precious. I'm holding my finger up, so we could be looking at an inch to 2 inches to 3. We've seen them as large as our hand.
All right, so real Tinkerbell type stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you could go that way, and they're actually bright silver. We've seen them in silver and in flashes, and we have pictures of them if you want to see them. And one of our friends, Miss Cassandra, wasn't quite sure whether she believed or not. In fact, we don't think she did believe. No. And we took her down on the fairy trail and explained and sang, and she experienced it and believed. And when we came back, we did a selfie, and you can see a gold shimmering fairy on her cheek.
Wow.
You see the legs, the wings.
For some, you need to see to believe.
Yeah. Now go back to Chris real quickly. I know I'm kind of bossing you guys around. It's just, but there's only one microphone.
Okay.
So what's the best time to go to the fairy trail? Is there a good time, dusk, or some people go late at night? People I know have gone at like 11 o'clock or something, like well after the night. But
yeah, I mean the fairy hour, really is like that 11 to 7, that third shift kind of thing. But we have gotten amazing pictures of fairies at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, at 7 o'clock at night, when it's perfectly light out. I mean, the fairies are always around you. And the beautiful thing is that when you open yourself up to it, and really you have to believe. And I think we write believe in really big letters on the board when we teach a fairy class. The fairies always find you. And, which is great. So we went down to Pittsburgh and, after doing fairy classes for a summer here, and there was a circle of mushrooms in the front yard that had never, ever been there before. And we said it was like a natural fairy circle. Oh. And then all of a sudden, all the animals started coming in the backyard. Like we had deer and bunnies and birds, and obviously none of those seem out of the norm, but these were in excess. Like, it's like they knew this was a fairy friendly house or something. Yeah, we felt like Snow White because it was just like they were everywhere. I mean, it was just crazy. So wow. We believe. Now, what's a book? If someone's going to read a book on fairies, is there a favorite book that you have?
We like our fairy cards.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your fairy cards. Go ahead. Talk about you have fairy cards.
We do. We created a deck of fairy cards. The fairies, a lot of the stuff is based on the elements of fire, air, earth, and water. So just like astrology. Actually, if you look at the movie Frozen 2 is very fairy based with the elements. And in Frozen 2, they have the salamander that burns in her hand, that's always hot. And the salamander is the totem for the fire fairies. So Disney did their homework. So it was neat to watch that movie from a fairy master point of view, so to speak. But we created a deck of cards. They're very elemental. They're very fun. They're very uplifting. We've given them to little kids. We've given them to 80-year-old people, and everybody they're just positive. You just pull a card a day, and that's your card for the day. And when
it's kind of like tarot, but like from a fairy aspect, more positive vibes type of thing.
Right. Yeah. So, but like I said, you can just pick a card from the deck, and we always say that's what the fairies have to say to you today. And it's
how
always
many cards
uplifting.
in the deck?
How many cards are in the deck? Yeah, like 47, 48, around there.
All right, cool. And is that like a number associated with fairies, or is that just kind of the names of the fairies that you had?
We don't have names for them.
Oh, you don't? Okay,
No.
yeah. It's funny. I interviewed this is on the sidetrack. I interviewed a kind of expert on demons, and she wrote this book on all the demons and stuff, right? And not to get to a dark place, but I asked her, I said, who names the demons? And she was totally like, I don't know. That's kind of, the names are there. I just don't know how that emerged, So, Jan, I know you're a pet handler with real life pets, but you also do readings and you communicate with pets in the afterlife. How did this happen? Was it just because you've always been loving animals your whole life, and did it evolve as your mediumship kind of matured?
When we do message work, we've always considered loved ones to be both people and pets. If we're doing a read and we're doing our work and a pet comes in, we bring that loved one in and we give identifiers just like we would a person and give the message. Again, before meeting with you today, I was reading for a family and the little boy was struggling. The first one in for the read was his pet dog, included with the name and what he looked like, the identifiers, but for him to understand that his pet was happy, joyous, and free. When we work with kids, we'll often say, we're running into heaven or spirit. We're going to have all the frozen birthday cake, lasagna, Navajo tacos. And we say that so it sets the element up so that it's a happy place. So he was able then to understand that even though his dog, who is in heaven, that he can still communicate with him. Put the hand over the heart and think about him. And he's talking to his dog buddy. If he thinks about him, it's like sending an energetic email to him. So gentle ways to communicate.
Now I see Chris hugging their dog is almost like a visual.
Quick.
Do you have anything you want to add to that, Chris?
I think Jan and I both have given, especially at the stump, we've given messages completely from an animal. Not a human necessarily person comes in, but the animal does. And it's interesting because they communicate with us in a way that's so completely understandable for the people getting the message. I did a reading last night and a dog came through, and the dog had just passed a couple months ago. He showed me sitting at the dinner table with other loved ones in heaven, and the girl just started laughing because I said, you gave this one table food, and I said, he's sitting at the table, and she said, I've always said I picture him sitting at the table with the family, and he confirmed that. It was really, really beautiful. I love when pets come through. I mean, we've had birds and cats and dogs and hamsters, elephants. I mean, we've had them all.
So is it mostly, when I talked to a guy that I've had on the show before, Rob Gutrow, he's a pet psychic, he can usually communicate with domesticated animals. Wild animals, he's a little tougher time, can't really talk to Bigfoot or to cougars or things like that. Is that what you find too? Mostly when you hear from animals, it's domesticated ones. You ever get like a wild deer or anything? Or
I read for a couple some years ago and brought in a pair of wild boar.
Wow.
You have to understand.
What did they have to say?
Well, actually what they said was that they had a pair of wild boar that they got to look at and talk with every day that was out their backyard because they lived out in some desert area. So it was a good confirmation for me. We've also read for people that we did not know at the time that worked at zoos. So we're bringing in elephants that had passed away, or a lion or a tiger, and then they would share with us that they worked at a zoo. It happened last week when we were reading out at Forest Temple. It brought in a father and a family member, and I looked at the woman, I said, and you got an elephant here, stone-faced, and I said, you have an elephant, please tell me there's an elephant. She said, well, I did work at a zoo with elephants, and I thought, there you go. So we trust the process.
Yeah, it's funny. Another side story, I talked to a remote viewer. She literally, honest to God, one of the stories told me was she actually got sent to her target was Bigfoot. She actually got inside, and according to her, was inside Bigfoot. And I'm trying to remember from the interview, but it's actually on the episode where it was kind of like, what? where am I? It was crazy.
when we get animals that come in, especially if they're not domesticated, like it's something like a wild horse or boars or something like that, it really brings home the fact that when you're kind, how much that means and how much it generates. Because a lot of times when they're wild animals that come through, it's like, you showed me kindness. And like that animal comes through really just to thank. And, there may not be any other like grand, profound message, but thank you. And that your kindness and your acts of kindness and those random acts of kindness mean so much and really resonate beyond species, so to speak.
Wow. It's interesting. So let's close about, people after listening to this will want to know how to hook up with you guys and get a reading or come to your salt cave. So who wants to go first?
I'll go. We're located in Lilydale, New York for the Cran Himalayan Salt Cave. All appointments are right now, because of the pandemic, are still currently done online. We do individual reads and tag team reads. And then we also have a deck of fairy cards. We wrote a book on pet and animal communication. We have a deck of shamanism cards and also a deck of positivity cards and a book on positivity. So as you can tell, we do a lot. The website is spiritmessagework.com or psychicmediumchris.com. It all is going to take you to the same place.
And also, Chris, you said a radio show and you do a blog. You do a daily blog or something on Facebook. Is there something you want to mention?
Yeah, on my page on Facebook, it's Psychic Medium Chris. I blog Monday through Thursday. Tuesday, Jan and I do a Heavenly Hello on there where we just get a message from Spirit and put it out. We have no idea who it's for. We just put it out, what we get, and it's amazing the feedback we get. And on Wednesdays is always healing. So if anybody needs somebody that they would like us to send healing to, we just put a prayer out, a prayer for healing, and then people put names in the comments section, basically, and then we like the comment and send healing.
Do you do the readings in here in the salt cave, or do you do it in the house?
We do them everywhere. Today I decided to sit out on a picnic bench to do a phone reading, which was beautiful. Readings can be done anywhere. And the beautiful part about that is the pandemic has proven we can't always be face to face. So the next best thing is being able to reach out via phone or via computer. And that's been maybe the silver lining, one of the silver linings of COVID, of the pandemic.
You help more people, but your day gets longer.
I was just going to say, I also do a Sunday sunset on Facebook on I think it's Psychic Medium Janice Dreshman. I always get confused on what it is. And the radio station that we've been working with, it has been a gift to us, and we do everything volunteer. It's a radio station from Pittsburgh, PA, called 100.7 Star with Bubba and Mel, and we have become friends with them, and they are true, authentic, real people. And that's been the gift for us, again, is to meet beautiful people.
Now, is that syndicated, or do you have to be in Pittsburgh to kind of hear that show? Or is it internet?
We've done it here from the Salt Cave. We've done a Halloween show. We're going into the studio, but because of COVID, we've not been able to do that.
Well, thank you both for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
You've been listening to the Afraid of Nothing podcast. Please subscribe and like us on Facebook. Until next time, stay scared.
Hey, you're still here? Great. Then why not listen to another episode? Visit afraidofnothingpodcast.com to peruse all the shows. That's afraidofnothingpodcast.com. And while you're there, click the coffee cup icon to buy me a coffee and leave a review. I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming episode. And the world will know how swell you are.